Hellworld. Welcome ringside for the Battle Royale.
This is your last chance, Hellspawn. You can't go back this time. No deals can be made. You're the king of hell forever.
Lover versus lover, Hellspawn versus Hell's concubine. Gather round, it's a show for all to see. Thrills, chills, and demons from hell. It's time for somebody to podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Spawnography. I'm one of your hosts, Pierce Lyden, pronouns they, them, here with, as always,
George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her. Well,
we made it to the end of the summer of Hellspawn.
That's right. Friends, lovers, haters,
concubines,
enemies, people who just don't give a shit. I think I covered all the genders there. We are at the end of the summer of Hellspawn, as Pierce reminded us. And you know, it's been a great summer, I think. A little toasty outside, but if you think about it, it's the coolest summer of the rest of our lives.
Thanks, The Simpsons.
That is a Simpsons quote, isn't it?
It is a Simpsons joke.
I hadn't remembered that until you just said that.
I'm pretty sure it's a Simpsons quote, or at least it is a line that's been appropriated as a Simpsons quote in the meme.
Maybe so. I have seen the meme. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm no better than a fucking AI. I just plagiarized that shit. Anyway, not intentionally, but you know where we are in the world.
Yeah.
These are two issues of Hellspawn, and they sure do cap off the summer of Hellspawn in an interesting way. It's got maybe, I said this before we started, maybe a little bit of a fairy tale ending.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the art's really cool in it. I think that we are kind of left in an interesting spot.
I have a theory about it. We'll get into it when we get to what happens in the end of the story.
Great.
Maybe it's a no prize explanation for how this can fit in, but
right. And one thing that we talked about a little bit before we got on mic is that these two issues come out in 2003, where we're at
2 years after the formation of My Chemical Romance.
Correct. That is correct. Where this is at in the main title is wildly different, because when we get back to the main title next week with The Kingdom parts 1 and 2, which sees the return of your favorite character.
Oh no, not Wolfram.
Yeah, it's Wolfram. So something for you to look forward to as we get through this issue.
Oh boy,
or this
can't
episode.
wait.
We're heading back to those halcyon days of 2001. When we check
Where
back
My
in
Chemical Romance was first getting back together.
Well, they
originally together.
They didn't even start yet. So yeah,
barely,
but at the time that will be.
So there you go. And these issues will lead in directly to the creation of My Chemical Romance.
Correct. And I think one of the things
I want to be clear.
That's interesting about these issues is that they do just kind of fit in where we're jumping back in their own weird way, because of the fairy tale nature of this story, because of the sort of unreality of all of it. A tiny bit of housekeeping before we get too deep. One, we got a comment on YouTube that said, "This isn't about Spawn at all." To which I say, you have to listen to more than the first 10 minutes of every episode. I promise you. We always talk about Spawn. Sometimes it just takes 10 to 15 minutes to get there.
I feel like generally maybe it's something that we're better at now, but we kind of at least mention Spawn and the issues we're reviewing right at the top. So
I think we tried to, but also that was a comment on a Summer of Hellspawn episode. So that's what makes it even more confusing.
Yeah. Well, media literacy.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Appreciate the comment.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you for commenting. Even if you don't like what we're doing, please comment. It helps the algorithm and whatnot. I did want to. We got a letter from friend of the pod, Chris Osborne of the Play Comics podcast.
Hey.
Thanks, Chris. I'm sorry that I didn't bring this up a couple of episodes, or I guess like last episode. But anyway, this was after Chris
Yeah,
was
our
responding.
delay of
Yeah, it's a weird
recording
delay.
sometimes makes it. Yeah.
This was in response to Hate Me and Hate You. That was issues 3 and 4 of Hellspawn, early on in the summer of Hellspawn. I know that we got into some politics in that episode.
I think so.
And so Chris said, okay to print if you want, or don't. I'm not your dad. How long has George kept all of that pent up inside? I know that you're not doing politicsography via Spawn, but when being nice to people became a political issue and continues to be a political issue when it's based on who you be nice to or how publicly you'll be nice to them or anything else like that, you can't really help that. That was a tangent that really needed to happen. George obviously needed the release. The world needs to hear more people saying it. You said it yourself in the episode. Sometimes the message doesn't hit until it comes from the right person. And I have a good feeling that for someone out there, y'all are the right person. To
Well, I
quote the
really
great
appreciate
philosophers, Chumbawamba, nothing ever burns down by itself. Every fire needs a little bit of help.
Hey, thanks, Chris. You know
Fuck
what?
yeah.
Really enjoyed the times we've gotten to record with him on his podcast and ours, and really appreciate the sentiment, my friend. It's nice to know that the things we're saying matter to somebody, and usually what I think about is just that it matters to us, and that kind of is the most important guiding light. But to know that someone's out there hearing and agreeing with what we're saying certainly does feel good. So I really appreciate that letter.
Yeah, especially as, you know, and this is something that we've discussed off mic, but we'll be using this podcast as our platform to eventually run for office. So it
God.
is really it is really important that people know where we stand.
There are 3 people you got to kill in your head. You got to kill the
Metaphorically.
celebrity. Metaphorically, yes, of course.
Okay.
You got to kill the celebrity, the politician, and the cop.
Yeah.
If you can get rid of those 3 things in your head, then you'll feel a lot better in your ego, and you will probably treat people a little nicer, especially yourself.
Yeah. Honestly, negative self-talk is like, man, if we could figure that out.
When I was in the hospital, one of the guys that was a counselor who was leading one of the group sessions talked a lot about stinking thinking. And it was so funny to me that it genuinely cheered me up in a very dark place and helped me open up. And like, it kind of made me feel it was so stupid, but like I got the message and it certainly helped. So if you're ever thinking about stinking thinking, just remember, you got to think good things about yourself. Helps sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of stinking thinking, we got some fire and brimstone to handle
in this
time
episode.
Around.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of thinking as well, I suppose.
That's true.
A lot of thoughts.
I wanted to say, in between the time we recorded the last episode and this one, you did see Fantastic Four.
I did. I saw it yesterday, and I thought it was fine. I thought it was about as good as a Fantastic Four movie can be based on the way that Marvel makes movies now.
I would like to see an extended cut. There are things that I know are left on the cutting room floor that I think maybe another 10 to 15 minutes in there. I'd like to see those scenes. But
there's a different version of that movie that
has a little more action.
Yes, it was very slow.
I didn't mind it because it focused on Fantastic Four things. I'll say this. 2 things. 1, maybe by the time this is out, this will be something I have written. Years ago, when Marvel first got the Fantastic Four back, I wrote a piece that was 5 things I hoped that the movie would deliver.
Okay.
And they were super science, the family element, a sense of cosmic wonder, the style and art and sensibilities of Jack Kirby, and a good Doctor Doom. Now, Doctor Doom's a bit of a mulligan. I won't exactly spoil why, but there is a presence of Doctor Doom in the film, and what is there is satisfying, but he's not like a big character in the movie.
Right.
Jack Kirby, check. Loved it so much. This is something you can read right now. I wrote about how important it is that Marvel Studios has finally leaned into Jack Kirby as the figurehead of this era. You know, we had the Stan Lee cameo era, that made everybody feel warm and tingly about Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that they put so many direct nods to Jack Kirby in there. Universe 828, his birthday is August 28. Rachel Rosman, his wife was Roz Kirby, wife guy Kirby. And there's just so many little things like that. So I got to write about that. And someone actually responded to that and said that they felt a lot of Kirby in Thor Ragnarok too. And I kind of agree, but I would argue that's more of a Simonson, even like visually heavily influenced by Simon, who was in turn influenced by Kirby. But.
Right. I mean, it is definitely Simonson taking all the things he loves about Jack Kirby, and then that being, well, we talk about the greatest Thor run of all time, and we've talked about it on this show 1,000 times, but it is the Walt Simonson Thor run. We're not saying anything that people don't already know, I don't think, but...
Well, he's the definitive Thor creator. He took everything that Jack Kirby created in the mythos and all the human stuff that had been done in the intervening years, and he managed to put that humanity into the mythos and make them really resonant kind of fables as much as anything else. He really captured that grandeur and that sense of like the saga.
I have to imagine
Norse poetry.
I have to imagine also that it was helpful that his wife is an editor on arguably the greatest run of superhero comics of all time.
Oh, one of the greatest editors and creators.
Is one of the greatest editors and creators
absolutely.
of all time.
And
so
two wonderfully sweet people.
Yeah, and so just to be able to like go home and be like, I got this idea for Thor. What do you think? Like, she wasn't the editor on that book, but like,
she must have had some presence, and I don't think Walt Simonson would deny that.
No,
Louise Simonson is an incredible creator, wife guy Walt Simonson, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing I was gonna say, oh shit, what was it? It just came up in my head. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Well,
Fantastic Four was a lot of fun, and
I had a good
Galactus
time with it.
Galactus was great.
I had a good time with it. I loved Galactus. I really loved Shia LaBeouf. I really loved a few moments, but I had a couple of problems. I think Joseph Quinn is miscast.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked him for this version of Johnny quite a bit.
So here's my problem with him, and this is going to sound stupid. I think that the thing that is always tough about Johnny is that, like, he's sort of the least of the Fantastic Four in some ways, in the sense that like his main superpower before he gets flame powers is that he's hot
and young. He drives race cars and shit. He's a little bit of a daredevil.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just like a dangerous hot guy.
I like that they gave him a science thing to do with the language and stuff. I like that they put a little bit more of that into it. I will say that's something. Ryan North to me is a writer who is really great at capturing the Fantastic Four in voice and tone. He brings that science. Oh yeah, I was going to say the other things that it did, I thought it captured them really well. Jack Kirby, the Cosmic Wonder was there to me. Galactus, absolutely.
Very cool.
Them going around the space and shit. They did the slingshot maneuver thing, which is a real thing. They did, that was 2001 A Space Odyssey homage in a way. Cool. Loved that. So the super science is covered. The family element was the center of the movie. I think what the director said was he cut out a lot of stuff that was like tangential to that, so that they could kind of just focus in on that, because it was taking too long to build to Franklin actually being there and stuff.
What I would have appreciated though, and it was one of the things that I think when I was thinking of kind of the levels of the film and the things that weren't really working for me, was that because we kind of meet the Fantastic Four already in progress, right? No, this is not spoilers for a movie that came out 6 weeks ago, but the fact that like they're like, all right, they've already been the Fantastic Four, so we haven't watched. I think that what it was missing for me was the tragedy of the Fantastic Four, and I understand that this movie was doing a lot of like, hey, this is the fourth one of these we've made in the last 20 years. We're pretty sure that you get it. So we're going to shortcut a lot.
I think originally part of what was in the movie that was cut was a longer scene in the beginning that had more actual footage of them fighting and other stuff.
Right.
So I think you're right.
But but here's the thing. I think that by cutting out a lot of the stuff that makes up how they got to where they are, unfortunately, you end up kind of relying on past performances to communicate to the audiences who these characters are.
I didn't feel
And
any of that. Wow.
see, I thought Vanessa Kirby basically got nothing to do
Wow.
except be like mom, and like I thought some of the script was
Wow. I don't know if we watched the same movie in that regard, but gotta say, she had some of the best moments in that movie, and some that were the most true to Sue Storm.
When she walks out and does that speech, felt like he came out of nowhere. Thought I hated that.
Oh wow!
I liked it. I liked it in what it was and what it represented, but where it came in the narrative felt so weird to me.
Well, they established early on that she's like the diplomat that everybody trusts, and that she's the one who speaks to the world. So it made sense, and I like that they gave that to her, because that's also true for comics. She was the one who negotiated peace with Atlantis. There's like, she's established as like one of the world's greatest and most trusted negotiators.
I also needed a lot more of the Thing.
That is fair. When I say I wish there was more action, that is one thing I wish was more of Thing.
I don't even need Thing action. I just need more of, to me, Ben Grimm is the heart and soul of everything that is perfect and great and compelling about the Fantastic Four. And I love Ben Grimm. I love the Thing. And I felt that the movie motioned towards the thing that is very tragic about him, but never had the time to dig into. Again, it's like Reed's shame and grief does kind of come through, because Pedro Pascal has, big sad eyes, and I like that the movie was doing like you can't fix these things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we understand, like, we're not dumb. We understand what's going on here. We understand like that he wants to fix his friends on some level. I think I would have loved to see a Reed Richards who is a little bit more, not a Tony Stark necessarily, but in a world where that doesn't exist, I would have liked to see him be a little bit more confident before the accident, like in a certain way. I don't know. There was like,
I don't get what you're saying. We watched different movies, dog.
I liked it.
The only thing they showed him before he was Mr. Fantastic was him being so confident in his space launch. Was him being like, we got this, and then kiss for luck with Sue.
But it was all basically montage. There's no sound in those scenes.
Yes, there is.
No,
there's a whole conversation. Yes, there is.
There's like one conversation. Anyway, we're moving on because...
Well, this is the end of Fantastic Fography, because I'm about to get hot. I'm about to get hot. I thought that movie was about an 8 out of 10, and I'm about to flame on. So we just do not have anywhere near...
I thought it was a 3 out of 5. I thought Superman was perfect.
Well, everybody, this is the last episode of Spawnography.
We want different things from the Fantastic Four, and that's fine.
I want the real Fantastic Four. You want something you've made up in your fucking head, dog.
I want the real Fantastic Four, and that's not a guy who doesn't have a Brooklyn accent not wanting to say it's clobbering time.
I thought that was funny, and then he finally said it.
Well, funny to me.
You are wrong. You do
what I
not
thought
get
was
to
funny?
watch that movie again.
You know what another fucked up thing was? No Moloids.
Well, they had the people instead, which I thought was fine.
Should have been Moloids. And
they had Giganto.
But they didn't have the Moloids.
I don't give a shit.
You're going to give me Mole Man and not give me the Moloids?
They gave you Giganto.
But they didn't give me the Moloids.
They gave you mole people.
They gave me people who live in Subterranea.
We have to stop right now and cut so much of this out of the podcast.
They gave me Subterraneans. They did not give me Moloids.
Oh, my God.
They gave me a great Mole Man. He was fun. You want to know what else they didn't give me?
No, I fucking actually don't.
Made of unstable molecules.
Well, they were stretching. They just didn't explain it. Reed's suit stretched the entire way that Galactus was pulling him.
Started ripping.
Unstable molecules have a fucking stability point. Like, that's not new. Someone as strong as Galactus, cosmically strong, can definitely shear them apart.
But then we should have just mentioned how that just give me one line that's like,
Why
oh
do
yeah,
you
you'll
need to
never be
explain
able.
it? You don't need to kick the fucking Batmobile
I needed
tires.
to know if there was a lore reason for that.
I'm gonna kill you. Welcome to Spawnography. We're now 5 minutes longer into this stupid fucking intro than we usually are. Oh my god, Pierce, you are worse.
I wanted to know if there was a fantastic lore reason for that.
No, there's nobody cares. They I'm glad they didn't give more fucking lore.
Why is blue their favorite color? Why didn't they explore that?
What do you?
Now I'm just. Dear listeners, George has never been this upset with me in a way that they can tell that I'm joking a little bit, but also can't tell how much I'm joking.
I want to be clear. I've said this before. This is a loving kind of like tete-a-tete that's happening here. The thing I love about this podcast, to bring us back to Spawnography a little bit, is that there have been times when we've had tough conversations about what we think, maybe not as raucous as that. We were both memeing a little bit there, I think.
Yes.
But there are times when we've had difficult conversations and disagreements about comics, both on a heated level, as you know, in a conversation, and in maybe a more kind of critical way, both in this podcast and in our lives. And I think that's what's great about having people in your life that you can talk to about your interests in that way.
One more problem.
Oh my God.
Herbie was part of the team and they're the Fantastic Four.
He's a robot, not a person. He's just a fucking automaton.
Wow.
He just does what's programmed. You're not going to fucking comment me about Herbie's sentience. I'm going to fucking lose it.
You don't think
I'm
Herbie's
trying
sentient?
to be so positive. You interrupted me saying something nice.
You don't think Herbie's sentient?
You
don't think Herbie's sentient?
They were putting tapes in his head.
In 2025, you're about to say on a podcast that robots can read.
It was 1965.
That robots are listening to right now. You're about to say on a podcast in 2025 that the star robot of a major motion picture doesn't have sentience?
Pierce, I don't know how to tell you this.
You want to go down that road?
That was an animated character, not unlike Slimer from the Ghostbusters. And Slimer doesn't have any fucking rights in this country. They prove that in Ghostbusters by locking him up without any due process.
The way that if things keep going the way you want them to go, sounds like Herbie won't have rights either when he gets to our Earth.
I don't think he should. How about that?
It's not going to be up to us. Grok already is applying for citizenship.
You know what? I reached a point the other day where I've decided I'm not going to learn one more fact about anything that's less than 1,000 years old. Like, I'm just done learning things. You know?
You're out on Labubu's.
What is is that a shoe?
No.
No, that's a Louboutin is the shoe.
Yes. Louboutin. Yeah.
And a Labubu is like Lululemon, their pants.
You're not far off. No, wow. You are. They're basically Funko Pops that are keychains. Anyway.
Wow. We're back to Funko Pops. Funko must be so fucking mad that people want to buy some other dumb bullshit.
Yes, probably.
They're like filling landfills like ET cartridges.
A friend of mine found a bootleg Labubu that just
a bootleg bootleg
which sounds like it could be a bootleg of LeBron James. Anyway,
bootleg is almost the name of my new band.
It's true. But it just said interesting doll, happy every day.
Oh,
so
great.
There's that.
Speaking of LeBron James, they just reissued one of the best Wolverine toys ever, the Brown Wolverine from Mafex, and everybody calls it Brown James or LeBron James.
Oh,
funny.
All right.
Welcome back to Spawnography, everybody. What I was trying to say earlier, and what will hopefully guide us into this fucking actual podcast, that we don't have to cut any more time out of me losing
You
my
think
top.
that I'm going to cut something? That's
Okay.
interesting.
We can have a 25-minute intro, Pierce. I don't give a shit.
We
I
already
don't care.
do.
I said it all. And I'm on the record already.
I'm going to cut out you disagreeing with me so that I can be the only
gonna
voice.
rearrange it so I'm saying, yeah, that's really true.
You see, you
yeah,
just said it.
that's
Thank you.
true. As I agree with your words, me getting you just cutting every word. What I was gonna say is, I really appreciate that we can have strong conversations and strong opinions with each other and have that trust with each other. That I'm not angry. I'm actually, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it at all. I'm just saying. I'm not even thinking about it, but I'm not thinking about it, but I was thinking about it. And no, I actually appreciate that we can have a heated and fun, maybe like kind of trolling each other conversation about comics and still come back to talking about something we love, which is Spawn. And we're here to cap off our, let's say, a season finale, although there won't be a pause between the next one. We're just coming back to normal of our Summer of Hellspawn. Yeah. And maybe we will do something like this again next summer, or, we'll see. We'll
Summer
see
of
what
Sam
the
and
future
Twitch?
holds. Summer of Sam and Twitch. It could be a thing. I'm just saying.
People have to want it.
People have to want it. Someone has to say it.
Somebody say it, and then we'll do it.
Summer of Sam and Twitch.
We'll talk about what to do for that one.
Great Spike Lee film, Summer of Sam.
We'll try to get Spike on.
Holy shit, Spike Lee directs Spawn.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking of somebody that'd be. I was thinking of Ari Aster directing Spawn for some reason.
That would be fucking weird.
Yeah.
I still think that the Australian brothers who did Talk to Me would be really great for like a mid-budget Spawn horror movie. And speaking of which, as I said last episode, and I still agree, even though I don't feel quite as strongly about these episodes or these issues, maybe I will by the time we're done analyzing it, I still think this arc would make a pretty solid, like, kind of standalone film where you have a lot of opportunity to do cool Spawn shit.
It does kind of feel like a TV show.
Yeah, it does. There is a cinematic quality to the story because it has, what it really is that this story has beginning, middle, end.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does have an end that feels like an end, even though it wasn't meant to be the end, as we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Before we get any further, Pierce, slap me with those credits.
Alrighty. Atomic Frontline Image Comics present Hellworld Part 3, story by Steve Niles, art and frontispiece by Ben Templesmith, cover by Ben Templesmith, lettering by Richard Starkings, and comic crafts, Jimmy Betancourt.
Ooh, I know that name. He's done a lot of shit.
Yep. And so just a quick summary to catch us up on where we are halfway through this final arc. The summary of Hellspawn number 14 is, at first, the Hellspawn is oddly comfortable sitting on the throne of hell, but soon becomes sickened by the vile stench of evil. Is this hell a world of illusion or reality? Spawn is still not sure, as the clever Hel tries to persuade him to take on the role he was destined to fulfill, the role of judge, jury, and executioner. As he looks back on his own shadowy past, the Hellspawn is unable to judge others. However, Hel has one more fetid and festering soul for Spawn to judge, and this one may be hard.
So two notes. Oh. So two notes.
Imagine if it just ended in this one may be hard.
Wow, that's an even more mature Spawn, Hellspawn. I was just gonna say, Jimmy Betancourt has a pretty extensive resume with Marvel, DC, a lot of stuff. So I knew I recognized that name. Letterer par excellence. Did a lot of New Avengers, New X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man in the JMS era. So a lot of shit. Cool stuff. And I think that's all. Maybe not. Don't quote me on those. Maybe cut. Oh, no, that's correct. Sorry, I'm looking at a wiki page and it makes it confusing whether those are things that he lettered or if they're just recommended pages. But no, those are ones that he definitely lettered. So cool. Great. Big ups, Jimmy Betancourt. We can cut through 40% of what I just said. On that note, the other thing that I wanted to say is in the back matter, I'll just cut to it right now because it's not that important later. In the back matter of the trade that I'm reading from, the complete collection, Hellspawn, the complete collection, which was, I believe, a 24 25 release. So very recent and nice,
Yeah, it's pretty
very,
new.
very nice trade. The back is full of not only concept art by Ashley Wood that looks really fucking sick, stuff like that,
That's the
but
cover of 15.
yeah, exactly. And then there's also the unused clown cover, which looks great. But there's also a bunch of the what I assume are the frontispieces by Ben Templesmith in the back, unused covers that I assume are the illustrations that they're talking about when they say that. And they're fucking cool. Some of the ones we talked about how cool that crown looks, some of the ones of like King Spawn and Hel, pretty slick. And he looks great in these issues too. So getting into it, we left off with Spawn being tempted into sitting on the throne of Hell by Hel the demoness, who
Still not confusing.
Right. Who wants to essentially be his like lover and co-ruler of Hell.
Like queen, yeah.
Yeah. And she has turned the world through her combined power with Hellspawn's infinite hellish power. She has turned the world into Hellworld. And in order to get Spawn to start damning the souls that are already trapped in hell to erasure in oblivion, she brings forth the soul of none other than Billy Kincaid, who at this point has gone 2 rounds with Spawn, lost both, but the second one was tough. He came to Earth as a spirit, started causing people to
he started like possessing people,
yeah.
And he was tough for Spawn to fight because he was able to kind of switch between bodies, and Spawn was like, well, the person you're possessing is innocent. And one of the things that I like, and so the theme in this arc is very much, if you become the king of hell, if you take this throne, you do become judge, jury, and executioner. Spawn, can you do that?
Right.
And
she wants him to, and we'll find out more about her motivations in this ending, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
So she brings forth Billy Kincaid's soul to try and get Spawn to go the last step to just fully becoming ruler of hell and making Hellworld the actual world. Because right now it's kind of a magic spell, you know? It's kind of like when reality gets overwritten in the Avengers with the Reality Stone and then it fades back or something. But Billy Kincaid's soul here, I believe, is very real because there are a lot of other people in hell that we know, and there's no reason to believe that this isn't necessarily part of it's not an illusion, she says. It's a new reality.
The thing that's tough about this is that like it does feel the discussion about is this an illusion, is this reality, is meant to just kind of keep us on our toes as readers, right? And also we've already talked in previous episodes about how there have been pretty large delays. Making this a little bit unreal in some way, in any way, makes it fit into the timeline a little bit better for the publishing schedule, but also lets it be pretty easy to deny, like later on. It's pretty
There's
easy.
There's some gray area here.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to explain away pretty quickly.
And again, I have a no prize thought about the ending, but here Spawn sees Billy Kincaid, and without even like a fight, it says, if the she demon wanted judgment at the Hellspawn's hand, she get a show of rage unlike any seen in history. For the first time in Billy's pathetic life, he knows what it is to be afraid. It says something like, if Hell has finally found the thing that triggers Hellspawn's rage, that's it. If she wants to get him over the edge, Billy Kincaid is it. One thing it notes is he's the son of a politician. I don't remember if that was previously established or hinted at or not. I know he was connected to a politician.
I think that I don't know if
maybe that's
like
a matter of interpretation.
I think also it just might be a weird
artistic license
lettering issue. I think there's a period after tortured and there should be a period after politician.
Very possible.
Or like a comma or something.
There are a lot of ways to interpret that, but
because he did
just speaking of lore reasons that he got out of jail, because they established that he got out of jail because of the politician. So it may be
true.
Steve Niles doing a little connecting dots or something.
But he also was hired to like kill a politician's kid.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think there might have
maybe
just
you're
been a
right.
little confusion.
Maybe there's also just a different translation. We've also established that Hellspawn loosely fits into Spawn continuity. This is a different Spawn in some ways. Here, I will say, I really like Rage Spawn. And as we get into it, first off, this image of Spawn with like the bat wings and his cape flayed out and his legs starting to turn into goat legs because he's becoming so demonic.
Super
All
cool.
of his chains and their hooks and his cape reach out and just engulf Billy Kincaid and tear his flesh from his bones
Second time we've seen that.
to the point where
Well, I guess this is more
it is
Even more
just
graphic
him
than what he
literally
did to Jason
stripping
Wynn.
it down to red mist and bones and then disintegrating his bones into nothing. And we have seen that before. He sort of did that to Clown in the early Hellspawn arc when he brought him in and like the souls of his victims grabbed his like face and dragged him down to hell.
So,
Actually,
very, very much Cyclops disintegrating Mr. Sinister
right.
panel.
Hell yeah. So now we have this fully realized Satan Spawn with the horns and everything. The bottom panel, I don't know why I'm just holding it up to you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Listeners aren't looking. I'm just showing off. I just like this art so much. The bottom panel of Spawn at the very bottom with his massive gauntlet claws, like Terror Claws Skeletor, and its weird bony goat legs. And then the splash page where it says Rebirth
cool.
at the top. It says, he has become a devil. With one burst of rage, he has already begun to change. Soon, there will be no return. Meanwhile, we cut back to none other than Eden, the young woman who, again, trigger warning, died by suicide, and whose self-harm and death allowed Hel, the demoness, to enter her body as a fetus and be born unto this world, man. And now she instantly grew into this demoness that's now menacing and sort of trying to seduce Spawn, and who technically did seduce him in the previous two issues.
They have exchanged plasms, as we are wont to
that is exactly
describe
right,
it.
And that will come up.
It will come up. And one thing I like that's interesting, and we're going to find out a little bit more about Eden and exactly the circumstance that led to Hel being born.
They give her a little bit of redemption from the last couple issues.
It's appreciated from me.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
I think it makes her more of a character and less of just a victim of circumstance, which I really appreciate. And I think that it is Steve Niles recognizing like, oh, I need to add some heart and emotion here.
Right.
That you're probably not expecting, because this character seems to have already served her purpose. And so I think it's a little deft bit of writing there.
Now, I will say the concept here is great. I agree. And a lot of the prose is very nice, but there are a couple spots where like the captions could really lay back again. There's something coming up in a second. I like the way it describes her pressing through the like graying corpses of all the people in hell and making her way to Hellspawn. Hel, the demoness, tries to get the hordes of dead and demons to stop her, but Spawn says no, let her through. I love the panel of him saying that with her in front. Templesmith really crushing it as a Spawn artist here. I gotta say, I know he's done a lot and come a long way with a lot of style and technique, but these pages just look so great.
Yeah, there's one of the things I kept thinking about when I was looking at it. I was like, what is this like art? There's something about the texture that's reminding me of a different artist. And what it was the Stinky Cheese Man, like Lane
Oh my
Smith,
God. Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
no, I can see that. Very close to Dave McKean in a lot of ways. Like,
absolutely. But I was, for whatever reason, I kept thinking of the Stinky Cheese Man in the way that some of the
I
figures
haven't thought about the Stinky Cheese Man in a long time.
Hey, stinking thinking about the Cheese Man.
And you've totally redeemed yourself.
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's just some interesting color choices. There's some interesting, the shapes that are used.
We've said it before and I'll say it again.
I love being a turtle.
Exactly right. The texture and tone of the colors and the base colors of the like sort of sickly browns and grays work a lot better with this sort of conceptual art than they do with the more traditional sort of hardline comic book drawing, like classic pencil inking coloring of
I have to
the
imagine
main title.
I have to imagine that a big portion of that is, again, we've talked about how we're now in 2003 and we're previously in 2000, 2001 with the main title, that it is a little bit of not just computer coloring getting better, but the ability to translate like physical art into digital form for computers to then print
Absolutely.
comics.
And we're seeing, if you look at the backgrounds, okay, these 2 pages where she approaches Spawn, like she gets through after Spawn says let her through. I love the faces of all the demons down there, the like creepy, like double face,
Yeah.
weird, like almost a vacillator type looking demon, a very Fleabiac looking face. And then the next page where Spawn is like holding her face. These pages, if you look at that background, I am not 100% positive, but I believe those are like hand washed, like ink wash backgrounds that are scanned in and computer toned. And you can see the effort to capture that organic texture as opposed to the way we've seen, again, computer techniques used in the main Spawn title. We've seen like the computer, like the digital looking bubbles, like the 3D renderings of clouds, stuff like that. It's in there, but it's used in a more obvious kind of like way. Here you can see that Templesmith himself has been experimenting with how his stuff is going to work for so long and figuring out this singular vision that it's really all working together so well.
And I'd be curious to know about the highlights, actually, because within those pages we do get some pretty stark highlights. And
I think
wonder,
those are digital highlights. I want to say
what I was
think
thinking
those are like
too.
a lasso kind of.
Yeah.
Those I think because I think those are added in not all the like focal points. Like if you look at the panel of Eden kind of bowing her head where it says she's trying to figure out what to say.
Yeah.
Where there's that like space around her. I think that space itself is in the ink wash background.
I think that there's no
but
texture
the halo
there.
color is yes, I believe that's correct. Now I will say, here's where the script starts to get a little heavy-handed to me. I love this panel where he's leaning down and taking her face in his hand very gently. He says, "You have nothing to fear from me. Tell me why you came to me." And she says, "I came because we've met before." There's also 2 captions of hard to read black text above that basically feel like the plot of what those 2 panels were going to be, just thrown in as script. There's a little bit of like showing what or telling what we're also showing in a way we don't need to tell. But there's a lot of nice prose in here too.
There's I do think that, and it's funny, I think that Steve Niles keeps calling out the managing editor, because I do think that without Tom Orzechowski,
there's a little less chopping some of the stuff that's left in the script. I agree.
And also too, we've gone through a few different letterers at this point through the course of the 16 issues, like more letterers than we're used to seeing.
It seems like that
issues.
is a less established and like honed process than Orzechowski and McFarlane kind of honing the script in you know
Agreed.
what I'm saying.
To the point where even Spawn's captions don't have the same weight that we're used to them having within the normal title.
Now, again, that panel of her bowing her head, it says she stammers, tries to talk, but she cannot find the words. She is afraid. Okay, perfect. 2 little lines there that are easy to read, very legible, part of, they leave the art to breathe. Here, if you just took out those top 2 captions, everything flows exactly the same.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Totally so fine. That said, she explains the history of why she's there, how comes she to be there, and here she gets a little bit of spiritual redemption, because in the previous pages or issues, she was walking through hell blaming herself essentially and blaming Spawn and blaming everyone for her self-harm and kind of really going through what the thoughts you must have about that in hell would be.
In a way, I might call it some stinking thinking.
It is stinking thinking, Abe Lincoln. And so Uh, I incredible work we're doing. Yes, she's getting a redemption in her thought process because she says, "You saved me, Spawn. The reason I resisted, what happened to me isn't because I chose to resist being assaulted by my boyfriend.
Right.
What happened to me was a result of a lot of systemic issues in my life and my own depression. Also, what you did was try to save me from someone who was going to hurt me."
Yeah.
And
There's an understanding that it's an appeal to his humanity at a moment when he has basically sacrificed that even further than we have had him sacrifice
he's
it in the
essentially
past.
said, "Okay, I'll be the fucking demon everyone
Right.
wants me to be now. You found the way to bring out that level of rage in me." And the appeal she makes the appeal she makes to his humanity really works, and
Yeah.
it kind of brings him off the throne. It says whatever shred of humanity is left in him. He says, "I saved you," and she says, "You did. I thought, and then I realized I was alone, and I did something awful." And he says, "Is that why you're here?" And she says, "Yes, but there's more." And she exposes how hell came to earth, the being and the hell world that was summoned.
Right.
She's the so-called portal that allowed it through. And she says, Hell says, "What did you expect? The girl left the door wide open. I only stepped through. But it was
Yeah.
you who set all the events in motion, my love, to Spawn." I love the little inset of Spawn's skull here saying trouble.
Yeah. What I really like is also that his demon, he's becoming less demonic as this is going on, as this has been recounted to him. His wings are kind of shrinking back. I think part of that is just the amount of space that's in the panel, but also I think it is intentional.
Well, he's doing the one thing Spawn is always confidently able to do, which is take some level of responsibility for the harm he has caused. That's
Yeah.
one of the biggest transitions he makes early on as a character, to be able to say, "I did these things and I am capable of doing more." We see it in like his actions with Tremor, where he's like, "I know what I'm doing." And he says it all the time, like, "I spared you, but if you come back here, I won't hesitate." So here he says, "Don't twist the truth. I know what I did. I know the pain I caused. I may have pushed the girl to her death, but you're the one who used her to come to Earth and challenge me." And here's where the other shoe really drops, because here's the opposite of Wolfram. Scary Larry, guy I love to see.
I do love Scary Larry.
He feels like a weird Beetlejuice character.
Yes,
the way he's rendered.
Definitely the way he's drawn, and just sort of his vibe. Like his vibe is crazy because Hel, the demoness, is basically like, I only did what I did because I wanted the true king to take the throne. She's kind of flattering him a little bit. She's still trying to manipulate him. Only because I loved you. My actions were in your interest, Hellspawn. Why is everybody looking at me like that?
I love that.
And she's just screaming.
And then who comes out of the crowd but Scary Larry? I love the first close-up of Scary Larry's face. That looks like the shit I see in like Night Terrors. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever seen that meme of like, "Have you seen this man in your dreams?"
Yeah.
It could be that. Like, it's fucking so weird with his huge rictus grin and his fucking weird glowing eyes. And
he's just like, "Sorry I'm late, but I was boning some witches on the west side of the scum hole. Don't you recognize me? It's me,
That's
Scary
how
Larry.
I walk into parties. Literally what I say when I arrive.
You burn the flesh right off my bones.
It's me, Scary Larry. He feels like a very weird Pee Wee Herman character. There's
Steve
like a
Buscemi
weird,
plays Scary Larry.
Yeah, there's a weird madcap element to him that is fantastic, that I love. That's just weirdly whimsical in this like terrifying setting. We learn that he is a rejected servant of heaven who is sent to hell, implied because he really likes hooking up with demons and witches and shit.
Yeah, which is pretty funny. Especially because Spawn's like, "So you're a double agent?" And he's like, I don't know. They got plenty of operatives. So I guess I'm just here now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But he says, she says, "This is ridiculous." Hel, the demoness, says, "This is ridiculous. He's obviously trying to trip you up to get out of here." And he says, "Nice try, bitch." Hel is nothing but a greedy hag who's trying to hijack Hel for her own purposes. He also implies that he's hooked up with Hel in the past.
Yeah.
And he says, but that ain't even the best part. I know why. It's a classic case of the dump doing whatever it takes to get back to whatever they lost, or in her case, what she was accustomed to. And she says, do we have to listen to this? And he says, yes. A long time ago, shortly before his head was lopped off by a certain Hellspawn. I will say the voice I hear in my head is Dale Gribble from King of the Hill.
Yeah.
A long time ago, shortly before his head was lopped off by a certain Hellspawn, the she-demon sat at the side of another King of Hell. In other words, Hell was Malbolge's lover. And we get this great fucking splash page. Once again, I'm showing Pierce. I guess I'm just that proud of how much I like it. Work I didn't do and I've only read. But I really like this splash page of them creepily making out. Tell you what it reminds me of. Did you ever read or see Inquest magazine back in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, wasn't that the Magic the Gathering or like trading card
Magic,
game?
trading cards, RPGs. They talked a lot about D&D. It was, so a trading card and RPG game. And they had, what I liked was they had a Magic card like price catalog, much like Wizard. Sister publication of Wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back, they had pictures of Magic cards, rare Magic cards that were the exact size of the actual Magic cards.
Oh, so you could cut them out.
So my friends and I would cut them out and glue them on lands and stuff and use them because we couldn't get a real Black Lotus. But, it's fun to play that way. We were just playing in the basement.
I just ordered a bunch of proxies.
Hell yeah. Well, I went to the the hobby store the other day to look for craft paints that is right by my house. And they had a huge Magic thing going on. And it was like...
Cool.
Because they're a gaming store. And
it was probably because the new set just came out, Edge of Eternities.
That's what it was. There was a release going on, and I was like, oh, cool, whatever. But while I was sitting there was a very assertive dude teaching his girlfriend to play Magic, playing 3-way Commander. It was very funny and kind of sweet. They seem to be having a great time. Did you see, this is an SDCC thing. We just are out of SDCC weekend. Mm-hmm. They did announce the Marvel Legends that come with the Magic cards. And
did they? I missed it.
Yes. There are a couple that I want, and I will send you the cards. They did a fantasy style Amazing Adventures, I think, Man Wolf with the fucking battle axe and the armor and shit. Definitely going to get that. And it comes with a Man-Wolf card. You can look it up. There's a battle damage Spider-Man. There's a couple other cool things.
Here's
Agent Anti-Venom
that I'm excited about with the Spider. So I'm not excited for the Spider-Man set.
Sure.
Because I don't believe that those things need to cross over. However, Wizards fucked up or could not negotiate the rights for the digital versions of the Spider-Man cards for their game Arena.
So you can't use them in that game even if you have them in life.
Which means that they created a Magic-themed version of all of those cards because otherwise on the app, they'd be missing a whole set.
So they have Arachnicus, Elder of Spiders.
Basically, which means that because that art exists, I can just get proxies of any of the Spider-Man cards that look like Magic cards should look, which makes me very happy because there are
If you're just playing casually, who cares about proxies?
Yeah, exactly. And also there's the Spider-Ham card is really, really funny because it gives other all animals that exist in that world +1/+1 and some other bullshit.
That's
and
fun.
So I'm like, that's so funny and so specific and weird. And I love it.
They need to get Throg in there. They need to get more of those Howard the Duck.
I would play the Throg card the way that it's printed because
exactly
I love him.
And he fits in better.
Also,
he fits a frog with a magic hammer fits in kind of okay.
That works. See, I'll play the Thor set. I don't know that I can play the Spider-Man set. It doesn't make sense to me. The last thing I'll say,
a little Fortnite-y.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is that one of the things that I said to Vanessa, I was like, I especially will not play these cards if the art is bad.
Yes.
However, they got Paolo Rivera to do a bunch of cards. They got Bill Sienkiewicz to do some cards. I'm
fucking those look great then, I bet.
Todd McFarlane, I know that you've been on our show. Spawn Magic cards? I'll play the shit out of those.
Hell yeah, that'd be sick. You can make them all like black demon cards and shit.
think about the pretty much murderer's row of Spawn artists
Dude,
that
Greg
there have
Capullo
been.
Spawn cards. Friend
Ashley
of
Wood, Ben Templesmith.
our friend Ted Nafee did some magic
Yeah.
cards a long time ago. Pretty cool.
He did a not lightning helix. He might have done lightning bolt. Or no, lightning strike. That's what it was. He was like, you
He
would play
just
this
got
card.
engaged, I
I
saw
saw
on
that.
Facebook.
Congrats to
Yeah, big congrats.
friend of the pod.
I'd love to have him on sometime. I wonder what he thinks of Spawn. Probably something interesting.
Let's ask.
He's the like most interesting man in the world. He's the most that guy that I know.
Yes, absolutely.
Love that guy. Had some great times with that guy. And I haven't seen him in way too long because I've been away from cons. We'll have to hit him up. Anyway, back into the world of Spawn. The other thing that old Scary Larry reveals is that Hel is actually not trying to be the queen of Hell. She wants to be the ruler of Hell because she thinks once Spawn is on the throne, she can manipulate him or kill him into transitioning the power to her. She can make him give it up, or she can take him off the throne herself.
Right. The understanding here is that because he's the one destined for the throne, he does need to take the throne, but then she could kill him and then she could get it. But she can't just sit on the throne.
Right. There's a whole, well, it's also just not her nature. She's a seductive demon. This is her scheme to also, it says you have to gain the respect of Hell. Spawn did that by, like, that's been established in other stories and stuff, like where we've addressed this. I believe that the demons have to respect you, and she kind of has to kill Spawn in order to, or depose Spawn in order to be the like rightful ruler. Kind of like there's a lot of stuff like that in the history of like monarchs and shit, where a king will die without a true heir, and two people will have to, like, you'll have to fully depose someone to take the claim.
I mean, that is also the plot of King Ralph.
Hell yeah, it is. Wow, I've seen that movie way too many times when I was a little kid. I haven't seen it in so long though, but I remember a lot of it, especially the beginning where everybody gets electrocuted. Based,
it's pretty funny. I recently watched it for the first time to go see the Blank Check live show.
Oh wow, I bet that was
which
great.
Was very, very funny, but that movie's not that good. So I'll say that.
Yeah,
it's not that good.
I believe it's very of its time. John Goodman plays one of those like loose rock and roll dudes who's listening to like Wild Thing and his fucking jalopy and bowling and stuff. He's a very like Homer Simpson Uncle Buck.
It's fun though.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I love John Goodman, a guy I love to see. So Hel is furious with Scary Larry. She says she'll rip his soul apart because she betrayed him. She says, I'll rip your soul apart. Spawn says, you betrayed me. And she says, keep away. You have no idea the power I possess. And Spawn is kind of like, au contraire, bonjour.
Yeah.
You unleashed the full power of the Hellspawn by putting me on this throne and forcing me to take this power. So now we're going to have it the fuck out.
Yeah, especially because now he's angry, has sat on the throne already. So he's accepted the power. And like we saw him do to Billy Kincaid already, pretty fucking powerful. So here we go.
This final page of Spawn looming over her, like, is great. His face looks fucking awesome. You can actually see in this face in particular, you can see a lot of reminiscence to the is it Medina?
Angel Medina.
Angel Medina, who's doing the main title. Similarities to that, but also Templesmith has drawn his mouth in that very like kind of gaunt corpse-like way, and it looks awesome. The bottom we see here, Eden, Scary Larry, a demon, and then the Fuhrer, Adolf Hitler. I will say he's got a bullet hole in the front of his head. Kind of hard to do.
I guess if it's a small enough gun, though.
Oh, I guess so. You know what? I'm just glad it happened. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. With that, we get to Hellspawn number 16. So Pierce, hit me with those credits directly.
All right. That's going to be Todd McFarlane. Image Comics present Hellworld Part 4. Story by Steve Niles. Art and frontispiece by Ben Templesmith. Cover by Ben Templesmith.
Sick cover too.
Yeah. By Richard Sarkings and Comic Crafts. Jimmy Betancourt. And I won't read the summary because we just went through it. It is this really sick cover. It's just really cool. Very Bill Sienkiewicz. I mean, this more Sienkiewicz-y than we've gotten in quite a little while. But whoo boy, like
Hell
that.
yeah.
That's just really, really cool.
You know what makes it feel especially Sienkiewicz-y is you can see the layers of collage that go into
Yeah.
it. And that is a big Sienkiewicz thing, especially on covers. What a wonderful artist. You've seen the like 3D covers he made and like photographed to be
My
printed and stuff. Like he did some of those for New Mutants that are
my
fucking wild.
favorite cover of his of all time is a Dazzler cover, and it's the one with
Yeah.
the Inhumans on it.
I'll have to look that up.
It has the weirdest lockjaw, but I love it so much. It's one of the books that like whenever I see it out and about, it's usually in a dollar bin, and it is
I have
so
a few
funky
comics
and
that
weird.
I've bought like that I've bought a few times. Oh man, you said it had the Inhumans on it?
Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
it's
I'm
so
just bringing it
funky
up
and
now.
weird.
Oh, that does rule pretty fucking hard. That lockjaw's awesome. I fucking love that lockjaw. That lockjaw is iconic.
I would get that lockjaw tattooed on me.
That lockjaw face there is the opposite of Uwu Clown to me. Listeners, if you've been with us for a long time, you'll remember the funniest thing that I've ever seen, which is Clown's weird face on the cover of the Clown miniseries issue 3.
I just
If
like that
see
he
a
has
Punisher.
he has a full-on mustache. He has a human face. Like,
Well, I believe this is in the time when the Inhumans, quote unquote, jokingly, it was retconned as a joke that he was not a dog. He was a man,
yeah,
like a personoid,
that had-
personoid, a humanoid, inhuman.
That had
Humanoid, inhuman sounds
terrigenisted-
like a fucking Radiohead record. Yeah, that was
Paranoid
mutated into
android.
a dog. Oh yeah, that's what it is. But that's not actually the case. But yeah, there's also the debate over whether Jack Kirby drew him with a mustache or with his weird wide mouth hanging open. It's kind of been solidified as a mustache.
Yeah, it's a
but
mustache.
he looks dopey on that cover, and I love it. Lockjaw, one of the all-time best fucking weird Kirby characters ever. Would love to see him in the MCU, to be frank.
You know, could we even get a really good Inhumans thing?
They botched it
It's
so
so
bad, I
tough.
think it's just toxic.
Anson Mount was a good pick.
Hey,
for...
Anson Mount's decent. I'm not even going to complain about most of the cast. The guy who
Yeah.
played Maximus was a great choice for that. But
Who
it
did
was
they get
just,
to-
it looked like
who
a
did they get to
CW
play?
show.
Oh, it was an ABC show. That's why.
Exactly.
Who did
They
get
got
to
the
play
guy
Lockjaw?
who played, Lockjaw, it was Chris Pratt.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What if that's true? What if that was true? I think I'd rather eat human shit than that be true.
They put him in like a mocap suit, and so
my
he's just
God.
on set.
Just on all fours, dude. Okay, that's what they did for Crypto and Superman. Was they had a human being in a mocap suit being Crypto in some of the scenes, like they did with Sean Gunn for Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
And Rachel Brosnahan said that the scene where Crypto sits in her lap in the like flying thing, she said was the hardest thing she's ever had to do as an actor, because James Gunn kept being like, your hands are in the dog. Your hands are in the dog. So anyway, speaking of being in the dog, these two got the dog in them, Spawn and Hel, as they are about to fight
About to throw down.
in a fairly epic way, kind of in a similar fashion that we saw Spawn fight. The other villain, the big villain
Cygor?
from Spawn 100.
Malbolgia?
No, in the lead up to Spawn 100. I'm sorry. The ancient evil guy. Why can't I remember his fucking name? Whose name is from the Robert Blake poem.
Oh, or Urizen.
Urizen. I kept wanting to say Orcus, which is a D&D name.
And
Not
also an
not
X-Men
only a
thing.
D&D name, but anyway, yes. Fucking Urizen, much similar to the way he fights Urizen. Oh, by the way, we talked about this, and I have to note it right now. A Town Called Malice is a reference to a song by The Jam that I have heard, which I didn't know was that song. It's a good song. You might have heard
Great.
it. But there you go, little tidbit, little IMDb trivia. I guarantee you there is someone out there who didn't want to write to us who was like, it's a Jam song.
It's
When
probably
I go to
somebody that
Hell,
stopped listening to us because we missed them.
absolutely. When I go to Hell, I know that my eternal torture will be that I have to correct the incorrect pop culture or missed pop culture references in every podcast that's ever been recorded.
No, I spoke to Spawn. He actually told me that we're just going to argue about Fantastic Four.
That actually would be hell for me. That actually would be hell for me because I love you so much and I would want to be doing anything but arguing about Fantastic Four. This whole opening splash page of Spawn facing off with Hel,
So
looming
cool.
over the city. It's great. It's got that wrestling intro or that
Yep.
boxing match intro kind of thing. And it
Fallen
really
page,
works.
sick.
It really, and yes, the art here is fucking great. This splash page of Spawn on the next page, kind of back to like kind of a classic Capullo Spawn in a lot of ways.
Yep.
He says, "You betrayed to me, lied to me, and still you have the gall to threaten. This ends now. This ends today. I don't care who you are, where you come from, or who you screwed in the past. I will not be treated like a puppet." And then he just fucking blasts her face and like just claws her head apart. It's fucking great. And he says, "Did Malbolgia touch you like this?" Which is like such a creepy thing to say, but like she's a fucking demon who seduced him. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he did. I've seen some shit.
I do think that the narration here is interesting. It says, this is not a typical fight between rivals, right? Because we have seen him fight Malbolgia and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and even like his usual sparring partners.
Yeah. It says, there's an illusion cementing this world together, and now the glue is becoming undone. The illusions are distorting, growing. A swing of the arm can knock out a wall. A lashing of chain can bring down an entire building to the ground.
They get up to like seriously kaiju sized, so they are like fighting in the skyline.
Yeah, I like the idea that they're like shrinking, growing, like that the world around them is like changing so much. It adds to Templesmith's art in a way because like you kind of are
amorphous quality of it.
Yeah, you're unmoored from what is real, what isn't real, what is big, what is small, and also too, we have been told multiple times that this is something that she's created.
Yes,
so it lends some credence there.
To wit, she says, "You undo this world and you'll undo everything." I will say, he pounds her and knocks her backwards, taking out an entire city block. Not the best wording. It implies a very different type of conflict.
Wouldn't be the first time.
That's right. I love this panel, this sort of like cartoonish panel of her like radiating light, where she says, "You undo this world and you'll undo everything." Then it has the like 3-panel close up on Spawn, another very Greg Capullo storytelling trick, where he says, "I don't give a shit." And that is gonna be my fucking like mantra, that I'm gonna clip that, just that image, and just send that to gamers. I should say Redditors. Hey, you know what? Redditors, we love you. Thank you so much for your support. I know that we get some likes on there and we have some listeners.
Yeah, we've Spawn even Reddit, had one of the Spawn mods on, Adam.
Exactly. Spawn Reddit A+. Every other Spawn Reddit Unity. Disgusting. The Spawn Community is great. Love the Spawn Community.
One thing that I really like about the evolution of the art in this, as the world is kind of changing, and you noted this very like kind of like cartoony almost version of Hel, is that then we get this like close up on her that is almost more realistically rendered.
Very Dave McKean kind of face there.
But yeah, and especially with sort of the overlay of like bitch next to her head and like whatever. But I think one thing I really like is that as it becomes like more impressionistic and less realistic looking and stops and starts and almost storybook in its ways, that also echoes how the illusion is kind of fading, right? There's like less detail. It's bigger swaths of color and shadow, and
yes,
as opposed to like the deeply highly rendered stuff that we were used to seeing before. And that is a great contrast, this being the last issue versus the very first few issues by Ashley Wood. I think it really works.
This next splash page of Spawn looming over Hel fucking rules. And I noticed something here. So first off, she says, "This is our reality now. Listen to me. If I die, it dies, and everything you've ever known will unravel." And Spawn, typically of himself, says, "Sister, that's the best thing I've heard in a long time." Then here's where I just realized he pushes her backwards, pounds her, all that shit. 100% intentional, because here it says Spawn takes her by the hair and begins to push gently at first. And then he pushes her head into the lava of Hel. There's this whole sequence that looks almost like a fucking, it's very like almost Calvin and Hobbes,
Mm-hmm.
like the way it's rendered. I love it.
Kind of Jim Food.
Yes, very much so.
I have to imagine that Jim Food would see this and be like, okay.
It feels a little bit like Templesmith was trying to get through this page a little bit.
I think it kind of works though.
No, I was going to say it works great. It actually looks fucking awesome and it works really well. Spawn dips her head in the lava. There's all these like built-in like magma, fwap sound
Boink,
effects,
boink,
and then
boink.
boink boink as he knocks off her skull and it just goes rolling away. Demons scatter as buildings fall. Eden stands calm. It's the end of this world. It's a good thing. Spawn begins to change. His wings rot and fall off. He grows smaller and his costume begins to burn, which is funny because she says costume later. She says, I like your costume. And he says, it's not a costume. And then it falls. Then the floor falls out from under him. I love this. This is a very William Blake kind of rendered page of Spawn falling into hell. Very like the one that he painted that I can't. It's not Paradise Lost. Or maybe it is Paradise Lost. It is Paradise Lost. That's Blake.
Oh,
I was thinking of Paradiso, which is, I think, part of the Alighieri writings. Yeah, I believe there's Paradiso, Purgatorio, and Inferno. My God. Anyway, I love this drawing, this rendering. It says going down. It says, is that a heartbeat? I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, O guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. Ezekiel 28:12. And I believe that's in reference to the fall of Lucifer. Is that in the Bible, or is that part of the Apocrypha? No,
Ezekiel is in the Bible.
That's what I thought. Anyway, well, the Apocrypha goes a lot more into Satan and all that shit, of course, which is the Catholic books that were ignored and later, I believe the Council of Nicaea cut them.
Also, so that Ezekiel 28:12 is a lamentation against the king of Tyre.
Okay, so it's a little different.
And
I interpret it based on what this is.
But it's referencing his past state in Eden, adorned with precious stones as the anointed cherub. That is who he was before,
That makes a lot of sense. And similar in story to what is said about Lucifer in the Bible. The other reason that I thought of that is because of the William Blake references that we've been getting in some of the text and stuff. And that very much discusses the fall of Lucifer, Paradise Lost.
There's a lot of parallels, I think, between what Niles is. Niles is a very smart writer. And see, Niles, come on the show.
Yeah.
Would love to chat with you about this because I do think that Niles, because he speaks with Holguin and with Todd, is recognizing like, okay, I can pull some stuff in. I think that there's, it's interesting. We don't get a lot of Bible verses typically in Spawn, or we haven't to this point.
There's been a couple, but it's not the device that you think it might be in a story that uses these ideas so heavily.
Exactly. And Todd has even gone so far as to be like, I don't know. I use it if it seems cool, but I am not trying to like make a statement. And this is really not trying to make a statement. It is just trying to make a statement about exactly what is going on.
Right. It's using it as a vibes piece more than like. Yeah,
it's like a tone. It's like a tone poem more than anything else.
And I like that. It's effective.
It's about a king's fall from Eden, from paradise,
and here Spawn is falling from
his actions,
his very temporary throne, and he wakes up in bed with none other than Wanda. Now, here's where my theory about the ending of this book starts, and we'll get into it after we read the whole thing. But I think you will probably at least see where I'm coming from for my no prize explanation of what we read here. So. He wakes up in bed with Wanda. He's still got green eyes. The Malbolgia M is burned on his chest, as we've seen with other like rehumanized former spawns, I believe, and some other like servants of Malbolgia, where it's scarred into his chest. She says, "You're awake. You're home, just like you always wanted. Supposedly, what this whole nightmare has been about, this whole thing, did have a point, didn't it?" And she says, so what now? Do you know what you're going to do? And he says, I don't know. Then her voice gets demonic and her eyes kind of slit. And she kind of is like, you've been dead a long time. The world's moved on without you. Why did you tell everybody but me you were alive? And this is a sort of spiritual confrontation with his worst fear of what would have happened, I think, had he actually come back and told Wanda what was going on. This is the worst reaction you could fear, which is, I've moved on. You didn't trust me enough to tell me you were alive. I don't want you anymore. And it's that being said to Al Simmons, the face and body of Al Simmons, not the mask of Spawn. And here I think what happens is, this art is great all through this. It's very like it goes
really
completely gray. There's a very depressing emotionality to it. Don't love Wanda's demon lettering because it kind of fades out at the tips. And
the lettering's rough across the board, and I think it's because I don't know.
There have been many different hands kind of helping with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a decision made. It's legible, not my favorite lettering choice. I like the vibe of it. The visual quality is a little harder to read. It almost looks like the page, you know, when you get a page that hasn't quite printed right.
Yeah.
It almost
looks
looks
like
like
the box doesn't print, but the words do. Yeah.
Or something like that. Or the words look half faded. Anyway, doesn't matter. The art here is great. Lettering is adequate. But she says, you know, remember what you did, Al? You created heaven out of hell and wound up upon of hell. Oh, sorry. We skipped over a very important part of this scene where she confronts him about abuse that he's committed against her in the past. I should have trigger warning that. Sorry. We know that to later be exposed as manipulation of Mammon, which I think gives some credence to her demonic voice here. This is a demon saying this, not actually Wanda.
Correct.
This isn't even Al's memory coming forth. This is a demon putting him through hell, making him think he hurt Wanda both alive and dead. The one thing he thought he couldn't do anymore as a dead man, hurt Wanda, he's done in this nightmare. He says, I want this to stop. And she says, then wake up, and slaps him. And suddenly we see the grave of Al Simmons. He says, is this a dream too? No, this is real. Pull the worms from your eyes, cough the soil from your lungs. The time has finally come for Al Simmons to rise from the dead. He says, I'm free. He's got these like tattoos all over him now. And who is there to greet him coming out of the ground but Eden? As it turns out, her soul was damned to Hellworld, but not necessarily to hell itself. And when Spawn forgave her, or told her he meant her no harm and embraced her basically, and then did away with Hellworld, it's established that he undid the tangential wrong of her death, and she's been brought back into this world. Now,
here's the thing about this whole sequence that I think it works really well with what Niles has done to this point. I saw this as the final temptation.
We agree completely, because here's what I'm going to say. To finish out what happens here, she takes Spawn's hand, tells him she can still see his Spawn eyes, gives him some glasses, which I like. We get a cool shot of Spawn looking kind of normal with his very 2003 tribal tattoos and his shirt that says howdy. And they kind of walk off into a New York City that is closer to what Spawn knows. And we're left to believe at the end of this, it ends in a very touching splash page of them walking off. She's saying, it stopped raining. He says, yeah. And she says, so where do you want to go now? He says, I don't know. I've already been to hell. I've got nowhere to go but up. Now, here's the thing. Two things about this. One, her word balloons are the same as Spawn's now. I think they were different before.
They're similar, and this, I think, is something to maybe not read too much into.
Well, that's fair, but it was maybe just one small bullet point in what I think of that whole ending sequence. Sure. I think him encountering Wanda is exactly as you said, the final temptation of hell. The final temptation to truly abandon every shred of humanity and even every shred of earthly presence to be the king in hell is this scene with this demonic version of Wanda that is trying to desolate him the same way he felt when he lost Wanda and made the bargain in the first place. But he overcomes that. Here's what I think about this very ending. And again, Maybe not the intent. We'll never exactly know unless we can talk to Steve Niles sometime, or unless he's addressed this somewhere else that we're missing, but some external place, maybe even in the back matter, perhaps. I don't know. We'll never know exactly what he intended of this unless he tells us, like I said. My resolution and the way I am interpreting this is Al Simmons' moment, like the moment he had with Granny Blake, where Granny Blake got to see her husband again, got to dance with him, have her eyesight back, and have this moment of peace. Spawn here gets to see his wrongs undone. He gets to see the idea of the world that he wants to see, almost perhaps as a reward for ignoring that temptation and leaving Hell behind, or leaving Hellworld behind. We know his saga with Hell itself and the throne of Hell itself isn't over yet. This is just a ending of his first run-in with the throne itself in this way. And to me, again, this is a loose continuity connection, this comic, to the main Spawn. And I like it that way. It's great. But that's how I'm resolving that in my head, that this is Spawn getting his moment of actual peace after resisting a final devilish temptation.
So I think that the thing that becomes an interesting parallel, and I think that if the Bible verse is not specifically brought up, maybe it makes this connection a little bit more tenuous, but because it is there, I do think that I think it invites comparisons to the Bible. One thing that is very similar about one thing that we've learned, things that we know. Here are things that we know that are not theories. God in the Spawn universe has said that on some level, Al Simmons, the Hellspawn, is a chosen one.
Yeah.
This is not unlike language that is used about Jesus Christ.
He is fated to play a final role in this conflict.
Yeah. Now, there in Matthew and Luke, Jesus heads into the wilderness and is tempted 3 times.
Yes.
And it is lust of the eye. This is largely considered by folks who study the Bible to be lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Right? Now, this is usually some sort of satisfaction. It is some sort of power. And then it is some sort of like authority or dominion,
which we see embodied pretty strongly here.
Right. And kind of what we've seen is lust of the eye or lust of the flesh, like in terms of satisfaction. Yes, he fucks the demon, right?
Right.
Power and authority. Absolutely. He takes the throne. And pride of life, he kind of gets it back, right? He becomes Al again in this like final moment. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's like a perfect
perhaps
one-to-one.
It was intended as like the next level of temptation or something, or maybe it's him overcoming that part to get some semblance of I think there's a lot of interpretation here, and I don't dislike what you're saying at all.
I think in a weird way, I do think that,
as opposed to a lot of the rest of this episode.
Listen, just because you don't think that Herbie deserves rights.
I don't think any AI deserves rights.
I never said that Herbie was an AI.
You said it was sentient.
Doesn't mean he's artificial. He's not artificial. He's real. In the world of the story,
he was built.
We can't do this again.
He was built and programmed.
We can't do this again.
We can't do this
again. We can't do this again.
We're at the home stretch. Don't do this to me.
Wait, so all I want to say is I think with the pride of life, when he rejects Wanda, it is him kind of rejecting the final temptation, and he's allowed to walk off into the sunset at the end, knowing that like he might not stay in that Al Simmons form forever, right? I don't even think that we're supposed to believe. He's had
this moment before.
Right. I don't even think that we're supposed to believe that this is a forever moment. But however, it weirdly does put a kind of nice cap on things, depending on where you decide you want to end this story. If this story came right after Spawn 100, like if these 4 issues came right after Spawn 100 in some way, maybe slightly chopped and screwed to make a little bit more sense with that storyline, but like Malbolgia dies, this stuff is happening in the background. Now there's this confrontation between in hell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah, I think I probably do tack this on if I'm trying to be like, Spawn ends when Malebolgia dies. Here we
It
go.
gives us an ending for that story.
It's like a Clint Eastwood.
That doesn't have to be taken as an ending of Spawn.
Correct.
So,
and so I think it's interesting. I do think that Niles is kind of cooking with the 3 Temptations of Christ thing. I think it kind of works.
You know, as I said at the beginning, I kind of like these issues more now that we went through them and criticized them and analyzed them, as often is the case, as is almost always the case.
Pretty much.
And I think the foibles that I saw reading it the first time was able to overcome a little easier.
Yeah. So I got no back matter for issue 15, but I do for 16.
Great.
This is the final issue of Hellspawn, the Summer of Hellspawn. Yeah. Is over after this, but Steve Niles doesn't know that. And neither does the rest of the creative team. So they don't answer questions in a way that makes it sound like this is the end. So, first letter says, Steve, are we ever going to see all of Malebolgia's other spawns in Hellspawn? I mean, now that Spawn is the master of the house, doesn't that mean he has got the whole Spawn army to control? Steve says, I'd like to explore more of the other Hellspawns. I had a lot of fun doing Covenant in Spawn the Dark Ages because his approach to the curse was so completely different than that of Al Simmons. Also, don't forget to check out the old Curse of Spawn series, which tells the story of a Hellspawn in the future.
We didn't cover that one, but
we did not.
It is.
Matt Brazier continues, I know you and Brian Holguin keep in touch and try to keep the 2 Spawn titles as consistent with each other as possible. Since Brian has now separated Al and the Spawn suit in the main title, are you going to try and throw something like that in Hellspawn? Well, Matt, by now you know the answer to your question is a big fat yes. I will be working with Al/Spawn a bit differently than Brian, but you will start to see an odd thing happening as Hellspawn and Spawn continue. There are some huge changes coming down the line that will permanently change the way you look at Hellspawn, I promise. It's going to be a shocker. Thanks for taking the time to write, Matt, and I hope you enjoyed the conclusion of Hellworld.
So, I mean, he wasn't technically wrong about that.
Yeah.
There will be some developments in the world of Hellspawn that change how you read it.
Absolutely. There is, by the way, a solicit for the next issue, so I'll get to that. Next letter says, Dear Steve and Hellspawn crew, great book so far. I choose to write my questions in list form. Question 1. For how long can we look forward to writing by Steve Niles and art by Ben Templesmith? Question 2. How about a snazzy limited edition hardcover marking your run? Question 3. I have to stick in a crossover question. Sorry. Spawn has been known to do crossovers before. Will you ever consider doing a crossover with some of your characters like Cal or Stella? 4, is there going to be a running theme to your run about demons, such like it has been so far, or will Spawn be facing some comic-style villains like the original Spawn series? That was worded very weirdly. I know it's a weird question, but I'm curious. This was written by El Misterioso from the SteveNiles.com message board. And Steve says, Ben and I plan on doing Hellspawn as long as we are welcome. You can expect a lot of bizarre stories and art to be coming from that young Aussie and me over the years. Which is true. We have a great working relationship, and he very rarely asks for the chains to be loosened or for an extra slice of bread. Ben's a comics pro. As for the limited edition hardcover, that sounds good to me. Brad, are you listening? Brad? Oh, I forgot. It's 3 p.m. Brad's asleep. I'd love to see the entire run of Hellspawn collected. A hardback would be extra cool. Todd? Regarding the crossover, the only character I'd like to do in a Hellspawn crossover with would be Hellboy. Spawn is such a humorless fella, and Hellboy is such a goof. I'd love to see what would happen if those two ran into each other. Something tells me it would end worse for Spawn than the Spawn-Batman crossover. Ouch.
So this was in 2003?
Yeah.
I just looked up when 30 Days of Night came out, and that was in 2002. So they had already done that together. They were already like, we love this. Let's keep
Which
going.
I wonder if that partly delayed Hellspawn.
It's very possible, actually, come to think of it, because the title was canceled partly, at least presumably, apparently, partly because of
due to
sales and delays in the production, which happens. This is sort of the beginning of the era of comics when a lot of stuff gets delayed in favor of not doing the usual things they used to do and having like an insert story that's like, well, Spawn 33 has to come out, so we're going to have a one shot done by these two, like an inventory story, they call them. And so, it does affect some comics, especially. It still does. There are still comics where, like, I would argue that the trend of great creators to need more time than is usually given on a monthly comic book grind is part of what fuels certain swaths of the comic industry to currently feel like a big mash of nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
Creative churn and grind and demands put on many creators that I think could do great work if they were given the space. And I think there's an argument for more comics to go bi-monthly or something, maybe twice, like 6 times a year instead of 12.
I think we've gotten to an interesting place with comics currently where kind of nothing sells super well except outside of a handful of titles
and like variant covers and shit. Like,
and I'm talking like
fueling a lot.
And I'm talking really like pre-pandemic, right? Like,
even
like pre-pandemic numbers versus now are crazy different because the pandemic really fucked everything up. And you've gotten to a point where comics fans are used to their favorite stories coming out 12 times a year, right? If you're an X-Men fan, you get 12 issues of X-Men. You expect an X-Men book every month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting to the point where these single issues are, I don't think that they are made without like care. However,
no, but
I do think
there
that
are a lot of them where all they have to offer is coming out that month.
Right. I think that the demands placed on writers, editors, and artists are such that
it's ridiculous. The demands are ridiculous for the expectation of quality versus the time that they're allowed to make the comics. It's wild.
And so I think a big thing that's happened is that comics, single issues specifically, have stopped being the loss leader. Even in 2003, we're not quite in the era of like trade paperbacks coming out all the time. We're about to get to that. We're about to like really hit the heyday of like, hey, in 6 months or 8 months, you're going to be able to read the last 6 issues in a book. Great. Cool. You can actually keep up with things just by trade waiting. That's going to become a way that people really start to read comics, and creators are going to adjust to that. And they're going to be like, cool, I have 6 issues to tell my story because I got to pad it out for the trade. Or you start seeing more like 3-issue arcs where, oh, my trade is going to be 2 cool 3-issue arcs. Like that's cool until I have a bigger story to tell. I don't know what's going to happen even as this episode comes out, if something will change.
There's another factor too, which is most American comics. Now, I don't know if this is still true at this moment because of what's happened, but
a lot of them are printed in Canada.
The majority are printed in Canada, and a certain fucking very banal villain has decided that they want Americans to pay more for that. And so the cost to Marvel of every comic book has skyrocketed, and they're going to find, I'm pretty sure that's still the case. They're going to find ways to cover that. And I think this is pure speculation. Once again, the opinions I express do not reflect those of my employers, Games Radar, Future US, Newsarama, Total Film, etc. I do not have insider info. This is just me very much speculating that we're going to see a lot more quote unquote Marvel exclusives. We're going to see a lot more circling the wagons creatively of who's involved because they're going to need to cut costs somewhere. And I think we're going to see prices rise just as they are across the board for everything, unfortunately, at this time in our lives.
Yeah.
That is what the economy is doing.
I think that unfortunately the comics industry in a lot of ways is pretty slow to adjust to big sea changes. And we're still not totally seeing a real market adjustment. I think X-Men's a great example of this right now. None of the Fall of the Ashes, Rise from the Ashes books, whatever the fuck it's called. Those books From the Ashes, excuse me. Those books don't stay in the top 10. They don't even crack the top 10 largely.
I'm going to be honest.
They don't sell very well. And they're also not very good. And so
Even the
like it
creators that usually do good work or work I've often liked, just not getting the
it's just not
fucking
hidden.
room to breathe. And now they're relaunching it again. I mean, albeit probably temporarily, but they're relaunching again, and they're going to this weird fantasy world. And it's like, look, maybe I've said this on this podcast before. I know I've said it in my life. Of all the franchises where the driving creative vision behind it can be pure nostalgia and pure nostalgia for what comics once were, Avengers is a great example of a franchise that I think thrives on that.
Mm,
The X-Men is a fucking line that dies in that. The
yeah,
X-Men, the one thing they have to do is at least show us a new idea. Krakoa wasn't that different in theory than like other times
Genosha.
there's been Genosha, Utopia, etc.
Yeah,
But it showed us something new with that and used it as a platform for different stories. They're
right.
trying to turn back the clock so hard on that fucking it feels like nothing. And that is the one thing. The X-Men are fucking great when the people creating it understand that they are a group of disabled people who are so queer they can barely function, all trying to live together as chosen family.
Well,
They suck when they're trying to be superhero cops.
that, and also I think that when you are trying to put them back, even Claremont kind of reset status quos back to something that was like a little bit more understandable. But I think that in a 17-year run, Claremont eventually was like, fuck, I really do have to take like characters off the board. They have to just go do something else. Right. And that was the original plan with Madeline Pryor and Cyclops, was to be like, maybe I just give Cyclops a happy ending. Maybe it's not forever, but at least I just get him out of here. Storm can take over the X-Men. We can create new teams. We can do new things. We have the New Mutants. They'll eventually take over. The great tragedy of a character like Cannonball is that he's never really gotten to be the guy. And I think one of the great things about Krakoa, like you were saying, yeah, it's not that different from Genosha and Utopia and things that we saw over many different years preceding that, is that at least it was like, okay, but where's the dancing between the raindrops that I can do here? Where's
Right.
that? Like Moira X is a great retcon because it was something new.
It
And
was a little bit like, wow, okay, sure, we can do that.
also it gave depth to past stories that when you read those now, you
That's the
go,
good kind of a retcon
oh,
that you
yeah.
see not what the creator of the retcon was trying to undo, but what they were trying to reference and the bullet points they wanted to bring back.
Yeah.
That's cool continuity writing to me.
And also, too, it is good for a company like Marvel for something like that kind of retcon. The Hoxpox retcon basically makes you go, now go read the old comics.
Right.
Go find out what you think about them. Now, is everything going to line up perfectly? No, it's not, because it doesn't
Nothing
work
in
that way.
comics does.
Nothing does. But if you can be creative and no prize these things to fit, you're going to get so much out of it. And I think that that's been, to bring it back to Spawn, I think the thing that's really fun about doing these 16 issues right in between, and I guess I'm getting into final thoughts a little bit, but
I think we should.
yeah. Um, I think what's been great about getting into, so, next episode, we're going to get into Spawn number 107 and 108. And to do these 16 issues between 106 and 107 has been really interesting, because we did just see a major thing finish in the main title. We saw a little bit of the sort of fallout from that. And now this ends with a sort of new lease on what Spawn is, who he can be, and it brings Al weirdly back into the fold in a way. It just kind of puts him back. The I keep saying the tragedy of different characters, but it puts the tragedy of Al Simmons back at the forefront of my mind as we move forward, and as I think about who this character is, who he can be, what his wants and needs are, and what his biggest kind of hang-ups and flaws are, but also the ways that he's grown in the last. These 16 issues reminded me how the character has grown and how the world of his story has grown over the past 100+ issues. And I
Absolutely.
think that that's really, really special. It also shows me how much potential there is for new stories with him.
100%.
And so I'm really excited to get it. I mean, we're at like 366 in the main book in the
Yeah.
world, you know? And so like, you know, we still got years of this podcast to go.
Hell
So
yeah, we do, buddy. Years
yeah.
of ridiculous Fantastic Four arguments out of us.
I guess my final thoughts are kind of these two issues. I like them more after we talked about them. Obviously, we say that every episode,
Sure.
basically our catchpage at this point. But as a whole, when I think about Hellspawn, I think it was a really ambitious thing for Todd to want to do, to
Absolutely.
put artists in charge of his baby and say, hey, add some depth here, add some shading, add some shades of gray, and also kind of just like let loose and try to make cool fucking comics that don't look like anything else that's coming out.
I 100% agree. And if I'm giving my final thoughts on the whole thing, I think that it is a great example of what's possible with a character like Spawn that by this point is about a decade established. What's great about that and it shows the great potential of almost an Elseworlds, but really of taking a character and saying, this can fit into the main world. This is not supposed to be some alternate thing, but we're going to give this creative freedom to these people so that in this series, when you read this Spawn comic, you get a fully realized version of Spawn that isn't necessarily the one we have in the mainline Spawn title, which is going to stay true to its vision. It's something that is creatively different and creatively new in a lot of ways, especially for this franchise. I hate the word franchise, sort of, but for Spawn as a whole and for Spawn as a character and Spawn as a line of comics.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've lost in comics at this point. You don't barely get ongoing series that actually feature a character that usually is great. You get like 4 issues of Vision, 4 issues of Scarlet Witch, 4 issues of Vision and Scarlet Witch. Poor Steve Orlando having a fucking basically reboot every 4 issues. You don't get something like this where you used to get things that were these side diversions that weren't necessarily intended as like,
they don't need to sell 200,000 copies.
Well,
they're not
they're
supposed
also-
to be the 1.25 million selling.
they're also not meant
one.
to be like the continuity, like the tight continuity connected thing. It's meant to be a title that has its own vibe, its own voice, its own story. And I like that when you take Hellspawn as a volume, even knowing that Steve Niles and Ben Templesmith thought it was going to continue.
Yeah.
Even knowing that when you take it as a full volume, it's a full Spawn story.
Yeah.
You can take it from start to finish and you get Spawn as a character evolving and also coming more into focus as the title goes on. I think it's a wonderful and really interesting work. Flaws and all, I think that it is a great example of what's possible when you just let creators be the voice of what's happening.
Yeah. I think that with Todd being this kind of creator's rights type of guy, it's awesome that he opened up his greatest creation to other voices that he, you know, I think we talked about this early on in the run of this podcast, but that my initial impression of Todd McFarlane as a creator was similar to many of the other Image creators, which was that this was like an ego-driven kind of thing. And one, as I've learned about labor relations, but also as I've learned about who he is as a creator, as a professional in general, as a businessman, he understands that you need to have a little variety of product out on that spinner rack, you know. And what's kind of fun about Hellspawn is like this is the kind of book that I want to give to somebody who doesn't really like superhero comics,
right?
This
because
is
it's more of a, it's great.
This is the
it's a little bit like that. There's
the Hellboy,
especially like where early Sandman kind of fit into continuity, where it had these little bits, but like eventually they just kind of said, okay, we're not really doing that now. Yeah, and you know, interesting title to bring up in the history of Spawn and the relation of that. But that said, I think that covers final thoughts for the moment.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm excited to kind of get back to original
Yeah,
flavor
absolutely.
Spawn.
We've had a nice summer of Hellspawn. Yeah.
Summer of Hellspawn.
Yeah.
Before we go, do you have any recommendations for our listeners?
I do. I do this time. You know, there's nothing in comics. I love comics. It's my life. It's been my life forever. It's not always the thing I get to focus on, but it's something that I've always had a passion for. And nothing means more to me in all of comics than the work and creativity of Jack Kirby and the love that he put into every single thing he did. Earlier I was going to say this. I don't even think Thor was the best Thor that Jack Kirby ever did. I think it was the first version of a many iterations of that.
New Gods is the best Thor he ever did.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
even then, he went and did Eternals again, always trying to get this vision of it right. Long story short, read some fucking Jack Kirby comics, whatever it is.
Fuck yeah.
Go back to the Fantastic Four, especially, and you'll see if you can. If you can get past your modern eyes of like what a modern story looks like in modern writing, you will see a lot of how we got to that modern writing in those comics and how we especially got to what comic art is today. That is not entirely, but very strongly on the back of Jack Kirby and his work. So go read some fucking Jack Kirby comics. Even just look at them. They're gorgeous.
They are I love Jack Kirby as well, and he's definitely one of the artists that like I don't even need there to be words.
Neither
just
did he.
like-
I mean, I
I-
don't think he even
I-
necessarily needed them either. I think they're beautiful.
I
Tone
just like them
poems,
to
as you
wash-
said, in a lot of ways.
I just like them to wash over me, and I also love. I'm gonna yes and your recommendation, and I'm gonna
Absolutely.
say, look into the artists who are hugely influenced by Kirby, and there's a lot of different eras of that. We already talked about Walt
Keith
Simonson.
Giffen, a big
I was
one.
just gonna say Keith Giffen.
R.I.P.
The Buscema's. Yeah, R.I.P. to Keith Giffen. The Buscema's, obviously, Sal and John
Masters.
Buscema. Absolutely.
The John Romita Sr. and John Romita Jr. in many ways.
Absolutely, and then even more modern artists like Tom Scioli, who like obviously
absolutely.
love that shit.
On the
I would say
superhero side,
Daniel Warren Johnson
absolutely
is such a student of that.
There's nobody who's doing it better right now. I
Yeah.
don't know if there is. He's so good.
But my other recommendation is just a book that I've been really enjoying lately. Is Absolute Martian Manhunter.
So good. I actually wrote about how good it was.
Wow.
I got to write about that. The art, whoa. The story, great. Beautiful recommendation. I've said beautiful 50 times.
It's Dennis Camp and is it Javier Rodriguez?
Javier Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yeah.
Yes.
It is one of the most gorgeous comics that I've read in a long time. It is so stylish.
Oh, and it
so
does
trippy and
such
weird.
great stuff with the Martian Manhunter as a concept.
It is doing so much. And it is just, I'm just like looking through it now.
Is that the first trade? I didn't realize I was.
No, this is just issue 4.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't think the first trade's even.
No, I don't
out
think
yet.
so either.
But it is. It's ambitious in a way that I think the Absolute line has tried to be.
We just need. That's a perfect example, also, of a story that doesn't necessarily have to exist outside of DC main continuity. It could kind of just be a Vertigo title. I know it's an Elseworlds like tied
Ultimate
into
Universe or whatever.
Yes, but it could easily just be like Vertigo's Martian Manhunter comic.
Yeah.
And I love it. So I agree 100% with that recommendation, I think.
Yeah.
And I love that both of our recommendations are about great comics this week.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love comics as well. And when I went to go see Fantastic Four, the first place I went was Forbidden Planet, and picked up a bunch of books. The new
any
history
comic
of the DC
experience
universe.
that makes you want to get more comics. I've said it many times. That's the best.
Yeah. Oh, and I have one more recommendation, just because I really, really loved this trade, and I'm happy that there's kind of like another volume. But it's Patrick Horvath's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Oh, yes.
Has like a new story
I think I
out.
picked that up when we saw each other last at the Strand.
Yeah. Really, really great book. Really cool art. If you like Dexter, if you like serial killer stuff.
It's very cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's better than it.
It's like Silence of the Lambs and Richard Scarry's Busy Town.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So read some good fucking comics.
It's one of our
main
longest
recommendations.
episodes in a long time.
You know what? It was necessary for us to talk about the Fantastic Four and the Sentient. Oh, and my last recommendation is rights for Herbie.
No, he doesn't deserve them.
Well,
when he does something productive, I'll think about it. How about that?
He's got to be one of the good ones.
He's got to be one of the good ones. Pierce.
He built the crib.
Fine. I don't know. I'm just saying AI. Any human being is fine.
He's not artificial.
Any living animal or plant. That's great. But he is just the fucking Slimer of the cyborg world. He's nothing. I even like Herbie, and I think that he's nothing.
Wow. Some interesting ideas about, I'm sure you'd call them clankers.
Now you put that word in my mouth. I never wrote that, and if I did, I certainly wouldn't say it on this television program. Call back to Spawn one last time.
On that note, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.
Especially through all of that.
We'll be back next week with Spawn
regular
107 and 108. Yeah, regular issues of Spawn. Angel Medina, Brian Holguin, Todd McFarlane return for a story that brings back George's absolute favorite character of all time, who definitely George feels deserves rights. Wolfram.
Wolfram's a living sentient being. He can have all the rights in the world.
Interesting. We're gonna talk about that next week.
Okay.
Thank you all so much, George. Before we go, I have one last thing to say. For Todd so loved the world,
he gave his only begotten Spawn.
Wolfram. See you later, Hellspawn.
Spawnography!
Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.